Hi, my name is Sean Mabry. I'm a writer, and today I want to talk about the beautiful challenge of writing redemption stories. Because the Nephilim book that I'm working on right now, the one I've been posting chapters here on this channel, it's essentially a redemption story. And to me, what makes a really great redemption story is one where we see someone go all the way from being essentially a monster or one step removed from a monster to becoming heroic. And the challenge there is that it can be very difficult to demonstrate that they're a monster at the beginning of the story and still give the reader enough to believe in and connect with and root for so that they stick around for the long haul, for the story that it's going to take for that character to redeem themselves. And honestly, I can't help but think of this right now in terms of current events because I just read another article about Junot Diaz and the Me Too movement, and I'm not going to dive too deep into Junot Diaz himself here because honestly, I don't think I'm qualified to say either way who the man is or isn't. I've read and enjoyed his work in the past. I think the things he's done are wrong, absolutely wrong, no question there. But the stance this article was taking is that basically everything that Junot Diaz has done right was the mask, and all of these terrible things he did were the real guy underneath that mask. And it got me thinking, you can basically apply that same test to anyone. Literally, someone could come and watch your life like a movie right now and just pick out all the parts where you did something terrible or unethical or selfish and say, that's the real you. That's actually who you are. And all of these parts where you were kind and generous and pro-social, well, that was a lie that you were telling to protect yourself. Now, whoever this impartial viewer of your life is, well, they're not really being impartial now, are they? They could just as easily watch your life again and say, okay, all these parts where you were good and kind and generous and pro-social, well, that was the real you. And all these parts where you were, unethical, violent, cruel, manipulative, whatever it is, well, that was not the real you. That was something else coming out. That was a bad spirit or an addiction or whatever metaphor you want to use. That was an invasive part of your personality expressing itself. And again, I'm not going to go down the road of commenting on Junot Diaz himself. I'm just saying that this is a useful example of what I'm talking about here is that, for the longest time, people knew that Junot Diaz had these dark parts of his personality. That was part of his writing. And the narrative surrounding him, partially by his own design, but partially by the design of many others, including his audience, was that, okay, well, that's, the real core of him is good, and, these other parts are just these negative, whatever you want to call them, spirits, addictions, trauma, and how this comes back to your writing is that this applies to every single character that you put on the page. And it's your decision ultimately as the storyteller to say, okay, I'm going to give this one the benefit of the doubt and make them a hero, or I'm not going to give this one the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to make them a villain. And when you really understand what I'm talking about here and internalize this, you'll never end up writing a one-dimensional hero or a one-dimensional villain ever again, because just like with actual human life, it's never one way or the other. It's never that clean cut. And so often it comes down to, what are they doing consistently? What are you, and from a storyteller's perspective, what are you going to show consistently? Because one of the things I'm struggling out right now with my own story is that I spend so much of the first half of the book really showing him as a pretty bad dude. He's doing you can just go back and listen to the chapters I've already put up. He's doing really awful things. And he's struggling to be better, but failing. He's not getting better yet. And I think the reason why it's important to show that, and the reason why, even though it feels sort of unbalanced or feels like I might be pushing people away, I know I have to include that in the story because I know from my experience and others' experience that that's just how addiction works. It's a whole lot of falling down and struggling and, trying to be better and not getting better yet before you start to hit that hockey stick point where you're all of a sudden your better self is able to take off. And I feel like if I don't really honor that struggle in the story, I'm lying to you. I'm lying to you as a reader. And it's something that drives me crazy with so many other stories, especially when they follow the more traditional Hollywood story structure, is that if we're given to understand that a character is bullied, for example, we see one scene of them being bullied, and then that's it. From then on, we are launched into their personal transformation story. Or if we're given to understand the character is violent or addictive or whatever their flaw happens to be, we see one or two scenes with it, and then we just take off into the story where they get better. And again, like I was just saying, that's never how life works. And anyone who's dealt with any kind of addiction or negative personality trait that they're sincerely trying to overcome can tell you that it doesn't work that way. Redemption is not an overnight thing. And I guess the flip side of all this, going back to writing a villain, is that you can just as easily show the flip side of that, where it's someone who has been apparently making progress, but underneath it has been an intent to do harm. And again, that's you'll end up seeing that with the villain of my story, but that's it. Is that so much of it comes down to your lens, your point of view, and it's not easy in life or in writing, and it shouldn't be. The fact that it's not easy is the reason why we need good storytellers like you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe as always, and I will check back in with you next week. Bye.